Namaskar. My name is Manoj Agrawal. I'm the editor at Banking Frontiers, the founder editor.
To introduce myself, I'm Krishnan. I head the West region for Palo Alto, based in Bombay. What I want to share with you before we start is that Palo Alto, right, as an organization, I'm sure you all would have heard, right, very synonymous with firewalls, right, and the other way around as well. But what we've done is we've taken a very strategic change in the direction what we have been about 4 years back. We decided that it is just not the network security which is important for customers. We need to look at the entire platform, right? You have various threat vectors today. Look at whether it is network, look at cloud, look at endpoint. There are various threat vectors. So we decided that we need to move away just from network security alone and then create that platform. And that is what we have been discussing with all customers. Very happy to see this esteemed crowd here. We have been on the forefront when it comes to banking financial services industry. Right? Today, if you look at all the leading private banks, okay, some of the large public sector banks, they use Palo Alto end to end. And the reason for all this has been that primarily there are three driving factors. Right? A few years back, everybody spoke about digital transformation, right? And the pandemic really aided what could have taken 5 years, 6 years to implement, right? Actually happened in some 3-4 months because it was a necessity of mankind, right? And it happened, right? Some of that which you would have never thought about, where you will never would have got approvals from your business or otherwise, they all happened very quickly. So this entire digital transformation, what has happened is the speed at which this has moved, right? It has actually increased the attack surface. That's why you hear more breaches, more attacks of late, right? The second point has been that many of the organizations has been looking at cloud first as an approach, wanting to start embracing the cloud. I'm sure most of the banking financial services industry has been an on-prem kind of a setup till date. But what is happening is that slowly it is becoming hybrid. There are at least non-critical applications which people want to look at how we can go into the cloud, primarily because of the business reasons, right? There are a lot of pressure from business on the GTM, how quickly I can go to the market with a product. So that has been actually pushing the entire IT environment towards cloud. And what you're also seeing with regard to the third and foremost point is that there's clear lack of manpower available at this point in time, right? There's a huge amount of attrition happening. And how do we address that? The only way to look at it is by automation. So automation plays a very critical role in all the activities which a CIO or a CISO does today, because you need to reduce the manpower as much as possible. The dependency on manpower has to go down, and the only way it can be achieved is by increasing the automation. So we are talking about digital transformation, we are talking about cloud first journey, we are talking about automation. In the whole process also what is happening, which is very unique to the security industry, right? This is not as much in the infrastructure space, but more in the security industry is that there are a whole lot of point problems which keeps coming. And there are a lot of companies, a lot of organizations, which are all these startups, primarily coming up from Israel, right? Which have been giving these point solutions to those point problems. There are 200 odd infrastructure OEMs, right? There are 2,000 odd infrastructure, security organizations. So I'm sure you will see that in your setup as well. There are more organizations providing you security solutions. And what is the need of the hour for any of the CIO today? Because we did a very detailed survey across, and we figured out that this vendor sprawl has to be stopped, right? How do I ensure that I do vendor consolidation, right? And it's critical for organizations to look at, if I need to consolidate these, right? What is the approach I take? What should my entire security landscape look like in the next 2 to 3 years? You need to take a call today so that you slowly migrate into that kind of a setup. That's one point. The other thing is with regard to the cloud itself, right? Why is the cloud becoming extremely critical, right? I just want to give a pointer there. If you look at coding, primarily a few years back, if you look at how coding used to happen, right? Any of the languages which people use at that point in time, right? 80% of it used to be coded and only 20% used to be libraries where you pick it up from open source, right? So the kind of impact which could happen was very minimal. Today, it is exactly the opposite. Look at this Python programming, right? It's not about coding, it's about packaging, right? You look at all the kids who are learning Python programming, it's very different from what was happening, used to happen, or in regard to C, C++ or whatever, right? So what is happening is people pick up 80% of the libraries and then do the packaging, and there is very minimal coding around that. And when you pick up this and do the packaging, right, it comes with its own set of issues which are there in those, right? None of these are tested. They are all taken in, packaged, and then it moves on. And that is why cloud security becomes extremely critical. Today, that is actually defining. So we have a lot of large customers across, and especially in the banking segment, who have actually embraced a lot of solutions across cloud, and they have taken the cloud native security from Palo Alto, right? So just wanted to give you this entire spin on what is going on currently in the space, right? We work with some of the large ones, all the big ones you can name about, we work with them. We come with a good amount of expertise, and I have with me here Tariq, who has been with Palo Alto for the last 8 years. I will hand it over to Tariq to take this forward. I will request you to make it as interactive as possible. Most of the answers we'll have. If not, we will definitely come back to you and share with you. Thanks very much.
And thank you, Krishna, for giving that overview on the cloud, on the automation, on the emerging threat landscape.
My name is Tariq Ansari. I am the pre-sales head for Palo Alto Networks. I've been with Palo Alto for almost 8 years, but I've been working with the banking community for almost 20 plus years. So all the top banks, stock exchanges, insurance companies. I've been very closely associated with those large organizations. I've been visiting Pune, frequently as well. ITS, cooperative banks and things like that. So happy to be back.
Super.
Jatin Satpute, CISO at Cosmos Bank.
Vishweshwar Sahakari Bank, myself Mr. Rajendra Sathe as the Deputy General Manager.
Myself is Nitin Lokhande from Vishweshwar Sahakari Bank, Assistant General Manager IT.
Sanjay Deshpande, Lonawala Sahakari Bank, IT Officer.
Samanan Pendse, Lonawala Sahakari Bank, IT Head.
Sanjay Gaikwad, I am the agent and I am from Janata Sahakari Bank, IT Department.
Which bank?
Janata Sahakari.
Janata Sahakari. Okay.
Sir, myself Nilesh Patil from Krishna Sahakari Bank, IT department.
I am Prerna Satale, Krishna Sahakari Bank, Chief Manager, Accounts and Audit.
B.R. Jadhav, Krishna Sahakari Bank, Chief Manager, Administration.
Ramesh Wani, Gajanan Bank, Vice Chairman.
Sandeep Nikam, Gajanan Bank, IT Officer.
Sanjay Joshi, Gajana Sahakari Bank, CEO.
Myself Jayant Pandit, Sanmitra Sahakari Bank, HOD IT.
Sunil Gaikwad, Chairman, Sanmitra Sahakari Bank.
Suhas Admani, CEO, Sanmitra Sahakari Bank.
Manthan Suresh Yadav, Suvarnayug Sahakari Bank, IT Officer.
Dinesh Rathod from Suvarnayug Sahakari Bank.
Me Jadhav Srikanth, Mahesh Sahakari Bank, Pune, General Manager.
Myself is Someshwar Karwa, CEO, Mahesh Sahakari Bank, Pune.
My name is Satish Lele, CISO Cosmos Bank.
My name is Sanjay Bagade. I am Head of the Business Development and Retail Credit in Jana Seva Sahakari Bank.
Myself Pradnesh Sabhay, Rajashi Sahakari Bank, IT department.
I'm from Bhagini Nivedita Bank, Asmita Modak, CISO, and she's CEO, Smita Deshpande.
Namaskar, welcome.
I'm Kapil Kanerkar from PTCC. I'm an IT consultant in PTCC actually.
My name is Subodh Kadam, Shah Sahakari Bank, Management.
Thank you all for joining us. Tariq, what I really want to understand is that attacks are done by people. And a thief, for example, will obviously try to break into a house that is less protected, as opposed to a house which has all the protection mechanisms. Now, until the thief actually breaks in, he will not know what the protection mechanisms are. But a thief will look around, see if there are some cameras, security guards, iron doors, whatever else. So the posture of the house or the property is an indication of what kind of security it has. Likewise in cyberspace, if you look at a bank, and banks are actually the main targets for every hacker all over the world. How can a bank give a hacker some kind of feeling or belief that the bank is secure and the hacker should probably try their luck somewhere else? Does that make a difference? And if it does, then how can banks do that?
Yeah, that's a great question, considering the current landscape, right, where we have data spread across different environments, right? The fundamental thing I'm sure everybody understands is wherever the data is, the security follows.
Okay.
Right? So earlier the data was confined to a server room, a physical data center and things like that, right? But now the data has moved all across. It is on your laptops, it's on your mobile phone, it's on your cloud environment, or maybe you're using any SaaS services or something like that, right? That brings a challenge to us that now we need to secure all of them, right, with the best technology available at that point in time, with the best processes, which we could develop as a community, and that's where the regulators and all those people, all the peering community help us. And then the skills. We have the right people with right talent, right skills to help us make sure that all our environment is safeguarded. Now, from an attacker per se, right, as Manoj rightly mentioned, right, they will always go for low-hanging fruits. Okay. Now, if you look at the analogy and any report out there, the 80% of the time or 70% of the time, the motive is financial.
Right.
So, attacker want to gain some money out of whatever activity is trying to do, right? Remaining ones are geopoliticals and state-sponsored things and stuff like that. Because majority
they may target the upper end.
Correct. So it's a very state-sponsored thing. Let's say, for example, China trying to get into India, stuff like that.
Right.
Coming to the majority of the piece, right? Financial is the main motive, and who holds the money? Banks. Correct. If you pick up any report, you will always see the bank being the top targeted, community, for attackers. They, known reasons, right?
Obviously.
So what the attackers do is, because of these threat vectors are so wide, because of work from home, because of cloud options and things like that, they try to see if there is any misconfigurations, any weakness of security implementations and things like that. And from there, they want to get into it. One of the example, where we are working with one of the global company, good size, company. And I'm sure you would have heard it, that the attacker could able to get in from a third-party contractor, right?
Okay.
And from there, they could able to get into the banking environment, and then all those things happen. Similarly, another example for a neighbor country is that the telex machine, fax machine. From the fax machine, they could able to move around through the network, and then they could able to try to exfiltrate or try to do a transactions of very large amount of things, right? So yes, banking are the most targeted things, but my personal belief is, because I have been working with banking community very closely, over a period of time, what we have done is we have created that fraternity, that community, right, where we share best practices with each other. This community, when we meet people, or when we see what the other bank is doing, typically we try to do that, right? RBI has been very tough, lately. They've been tightening all those regulatory requirements. Some of the best practices being rolled out for the auditors, regulators, and all those different bodies. I think at this point in time, because we have the global wave, I believe Indian banking community is way above than other regions, right? Because when we interact, when you go and see the Asian communities, when we see European banks, when we see American banks and all those things, their processes are not that tight, right? The technology, although they are the innovator of most of the things, but they have not adopted technology into those areas. We are doing WhatsApp banking, we are doing SMS banking, we are doing chatbot things and stuff like that and all those things. People are still following. Just to summarize, for banks, it is very important to have technology, right? It is very important to have processes, and it is very important to have people, right people, to make sure that they tie the whole thing properly. We as a vendor, we try to help with the bank with right technology, right solution, right? But as a community, we also need to make sure the processes are set right, adopted,
Okay.
implemented, followed upon. There is a cadence, right? And that's why the regulators, we are seeing IDRBT is doing those cyber drills. I'm sure you're participating in those cyber drills, right? Those are nothing but to test or check your ability to detect a threat and respond to that particular threat, right? And then last but not least, skills. That's what the Krishna was mentioning earlier. We need to continue investing in people, making sure that the current staff or the next generation which going to onboard is aware about cybersecurity and they adopt cybersecurity as the base, right? Looking at the future, I think no project can be completed without considering security. That's Manoj, right? That has to be the integral part of anything and everything which banks are doing. It could be a simple app modernization project. It could be as simple as work from home. It could be as simple as, chat kind of an applications. It could be a WhatsApp-based banking and things like that and all those things. People are adopting digital technologies. Technology is enabling all those people for financial inclusion, right? Because at India or across the globe, that's the biggest goal, right, for the human being, to make sure that everybody is connected to the financial system. Or the only way to include them is technology. Bank has to have multiple channels open for everybody to get on board. The more the channels, the more security concerns and issues, right?
Okay.
And that's where technology, people, skills comes into play, and make sure that we have to safe and secure all the channels to make sure that we onboard everybody, make sure that they are included in financial things, right? Because if you look at, we are talking about T1, T2 city, but the moment you go to Tier 3 cities,
Things change.
you will see there's a guy who doesn't know about banking. He doesn't know how to. I come across multiple people at the ATM in Mumbai. They don't know how to operate ATMs.
Yes.
So we have to think about those people, right? As a community, we need to make sure that we win their trust by making sure that whatever we do it securely and safely. Because if we lose the trust of the people, they will not put their money in the bank, right? And they will not adopt digitalization. They will not adopt technologies that will push the generation which is coming ahead further back.
Okay.
That's the higher motive, I would say.
Sounds good. But I want to also now touch upon another angle, which is, we have this saying, prevention is better than cure. The question is, how can a partner, an IT company, a cybersecurity company, give some kind of intelligence to the banks that these kind of threats are coming, which may be either banks, industry specific or bank specific. And for example, there's some data about your bank on dark web. Is that something that you guys have some intelligence on? Or about, what kind of intelligence do you have about the banking sector that they can respond proactively rather than wait for the attack to happen and then do something?
Yeah, good question.
And let's speed up.
Sure. So quickly, there are of course technologies available. The threat feeds are available, right? Threat feeds are available from different OEMs, from Palo Alto as well. Typically what banks does is they take that feed, identify the IOCs, and then implement the IOCs, indication of compromise, right?
Okay.
So that threat feed will have information like this particular URL is bad, this particular URL is doing credential harvesting, credential theft kind of an attack has been done from this URL, this IP, this region, and then please go ahead and block that particular IP address and things like that and all those things. RBI has been lately increasing the number of IOCs, right? Maybe 3 years back it was list of 5 IPs or 10 IPs and things like that, right? But now hundreds of IPs are coming in, and then banks are being asked to block those particular IP addresses because there is a national intelligence team, who is monitoring all those.
How
things.
big is that list currently overall?
It's 100 plus, and it is very difficult for the banks to implement those things on the fly, right? So what we are doing at Palo Alto Networks, or as an OEM, or as a security vendor, first of all, we are bringing the right intelligence at the right time. Okay, since we have customers all across the globe, our product acts as a sensor of what is happening across the globe. if we see any malicious activity, our product report into Palo Alto Cloud. It's a choice given to the customer. From that, we enrich that particular information. Do we see this information all across the globe? And then we qualify that information and then pass it on to all our customers across the globe. So let's say, for example, if we see a credential attack happening in Mexico, one of the banks, and then a bank is using Palo Alto system, the Palo Alto system will flag it, give it back to the Palo Alto team. Palo Alto team will research, make sure that it is qualified, and then that information is passed on to all the customers, all the banks, with a proper tagging. Tagging is very important, right? So taggings will tell you what family, which sector, okay, which nation, what kind of attack it is, right? With all that information, we pass it on to the banks. So the bank, when they take feed, they know exactly what is this attack. In today's world, it is not important to detect an attack and block an attack. That's it's not enough. We also need to identify what is the motive of that attack. Is that virus, is that worm, is that URL is trying to steal the credential? Because credential is the biggest asset in the banking environment. So if somebody is going after credential of ABCD CEO or CFO or VPIT, right? That's a big thing. So we need to know the intention, we need to know the motives.
As opposed to some random employee.
Exactly, and then we have to provide ways and means for our customer to make sure that they are safeguarded that particular information.
Okay.
Threat intel also is used for brokering some critical situation you may fall into. For example, ransomware. So one of the bank, one of the enterprise, large bank got themselves into a bad situation where some of the systems were encrypted and they had no way to restore. So they reached out to Palo Alto Networks, and then Palo Alto Networks brokered that communication between hacker and the bank, right? Because let's agree, if something happens to us, if hacker asks us to pay, bitcoins, there is, at least I don't know how to buy bitcoins, right? I don't know if I give them bitcoin, will they decrypt my data? I don't know, right? So there is a skill required to negotiate, confirm, and assure that the party will give the data back. So we brokered in one of these situations where, the ransom plus, we negotiated and we brought it down to 200K.
110.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And then we got the data back, and we asked the attacker to decrypt some part of the data, just to give us assurance and stuff like that and all those things. Just imagine as a kidnap situation. You would see in movies, how they do it. We have those people. So it's not threat intel alone, but a lot of things which goes into backend.
So every organization is continuously getting hacked upon, attempts are being made. Some attempts may result in a very large money, some may result in 10, 20,000 which goes out, which is manageable. But what happens if the threat is huge, maybe crores of rupees are at risk? Is there something that the bank can do specifically to target such bigger threats, or to, if not target, at least understand which are the bigger threats? Any of that kind of intelligence or automation or something?
Yeah, sure. So two parts to it, right? One is identifying what kind of attacks are coming to you, so to prepare yourself.
Okay.
Right? Second part to it is, how do you mitigate those attacks, right? So let me come to the first part. The threat intel is connected to that particular piece, right? As we are adopting technologies, different channels of business, right? Our data is spread all across. We need to have a continuous monitoring system to tell us what kind of attacks, what kind of threats are being targeted to your systems, or what kind of inventory I have, what is the posture I have, VAPT systems and all those things, comes handy. Now, once we know our systems spread 2 areas, 3 areas, 4 areas, right, and then we built a different security solution around it. So for example, if you have on-prem data centers, your best chance to protect is next generation firewall, APT solutions, and then endpoint protection solutions, IPS, WAF, DLP, and things like that, right? That's how you structure. That's how you create a defense in the things and stuff like that, right? The moment you take it to the cloud, although you want to achieve the same objectives, but the tools will change. Because now cloud is a different thing altogether. Similarly, if it is work from home, the tools will differ, but the objectives remain same. So you need to figure out, what is the right tool, how do I implement that? Once that piece is done, the important element which everybody struggle to is how do we make these technology talk to each other, right? I mean, everybody is here, right? At least you would be using 15 to 20 different security solutions in your environment. Antivirus company A, IPS company B, firewall company C, and list goes on, right? What happens is that these vendors does not talk to each other. You are responsible for reading those logs, understanding those logs, and then deciding on action, okay? And this has been going on for a long time, and because of number of channels are increasing, logs are increasing, alerts are increasing, assets are increasing, this is putting a lot of pressure on this human-based approach, okay, which is not scaling.
Okay.
So that's what the Krishnan was touching upon. So first problem which we have to solve as this community is, can we consolidate? Can I select vendor A or vendor B to help me consolidate most of the things, okay? That's point number one. Point number two, whatever cannot be consolidated, can I have a mechanism so that threat intel can be passed upon on all the technologies, all the solutions as early as possible, and the changes can be done in an automated way, right? This is where the industry is heading. This is where the NG-SOC piece is coming up. This is where the SOAR is coming up. This is where the integration, coming up. Unfortunately, SIM was supposed to do that, but SIM is now acting as an aggregator. That's it. Only just collect the logs, right? Now, this is the first answer. The second answer is, what is the approach? The best approach at this point in time available for us is zero trust. Okay? Now, there are a lot of myths, there are a lot of, I would say, lack of information around zero trust. Typically, and I will not blame you as a consumer, but I will blame OEM as a provider. So what typically OEM does is, they will have one product and they will label it as zero trust. And they will push that to you, that sir, this is zero trust. That is not zero trust. Zero trust is not a product. Right? You cannot buy one product and say, now I'm zero trust. Right? Zero trust is a framework which you have to adopt in everything, in anything you do in your environment, right? Right from IT processes, technologies, and things like that, right? So when it comes to network security, when it comes to cloud security, when it comes to endpoint security, how can you adopt a zero trust? At Palo Alto Networks, what we have done is, we have created those frameworks, okay, for all these bigger areas. Network security, how the zero trust should be. Cloud, how the zero trust should be. Endpoint security, how the zero trust should be, right? And we have done this for some of the very large organizations all across the globe.
Let me come to security leaders present here and ask one question, that as and when you actually faced an incident, or you think there is an incident, there is something happening, and your systems are not able to give a clear picture, who do you go to? Do you go to all your security vendors? Do you even go to your business application providers? Okay, I think there's something suspicious in this account, or in my current accounts across, or whatever it is, all my cards, stuff like that. If you suspect something, or if you have actually observed something, who do you reach out to first?
I'm not a IT from the IT background, but first of all, definitely will like to go to the vendor only, whose services we have been using. The reason is that actually I am not able to understand from where the threat has been happened.
Okay.
So immediately the questions will be to the vendor whose systems we have been using. So we'll go to him only and we'll ask, this is the area where actually we got a threat.
Okay.
That's it. But unable to understand from where actually it has happened,
Where?
which firewall it has been broken.
So I think
we should have do the prior practice like we do periodic audit or compliance, regulatory compliance or something. So we should do the forensic readiness, that all our critical system which is associated in the banking environment, there all the login mechanism has to be recorded, and it has to be centrally with the one central location where we can have a high level view. If something is happened, then we can have a quick look on those log.
Okay.
So, or we can do the periodic thread hunting activity or something on our log where we can do deep dive analysis and make sure that if something 0-day thing is happened in our environment, we should have a high view, or we can patch up that requirement.
So patching is one solution.
Yeah, patching and the digital forensic readiness related activity where our all critical system has to be, auditing mode has to be enabled, and their log has to be centrally recorded. It is through your syslog server or SIM server or NextGem SIM server, where you can have a high level view that what goes wrong or what happened.
So what kind of occasions arise where all this does not give you a sufficient clarity, and then you need to go to someone outside, whether it's your vendor, whether it's the police, maybe there will be occasions where you need to inform the police or cyber police also. In such kinds of situations, how do human beings make the choice?
No, ideally nowadays the RBI come up with the Daksh portal. That Daksh portal where if something incident happened in your organization, or maybe there is a downtime for say as per your internal KRA or KPI, whatever your critical applications are associated with that. So you can report that incident to that particular portal. With
the solution? They won't give a solution.
No, they will not give the solution, but you should have a RCA and all. And for that solution, you may go for the one particular vendor. For example, if there is a DDoS attack has happened on your environment.
Okay.
So DDoS attack has happened, that time you have to contact two person, either your firewall service provider or maybe your ISP, where either you have opt for the clear pipe or not, to make sure that attack should be protected.
Okay.
Firstly, we should have policies and preventive controls. And if that preventive controls are not applied properly, then there will be a case. We will have to go to the vendors. So we should have the preventive mechanism and preventive all that antivirus, DLP, SOC. With that, and the implementation. If there is a flaw in implementation, then these incidents may
So these
happen.
flaws are caught in IT audits? Is that the best way to understand them?
By various means it will be available to the IT team, and we do have our incidents management plan also. So accordingly we need to act as per that incident. Whom to contact will depend upon the particular incidents only.
Okay. I would put transformation into two types. One is tangible and one is intangible. Now, the issue is both these transformations are important. As you are modernizing, what are some of the important tangible transformations you have done? And what are some of the important untangible, invisible transformations you have done, which you think are making a big impact?
This is a very good question. First thing is you are asking about tangible and intangible transformation. I will first touch base upon the intangible transformation.
Okay.
Because based on the experience, I can tell you people are the weakest link always. You may have the good tools, you may have the best technology, but if you don't have the skilled people in place, it is of no use basically. So the people skill set as well as the awareness I am talking about when you are talking about intangible transformation. So we give the cyber security awareness training, right? It is mandatory for all the employees. The reason being that I have gone through that experience. Those people who are quite aware, they have protected a lot of security incidents itself.
Okay.
We have gone through that experience. So this there's been cyber security awareness training. Even though we don't give that much importance, but that is one of the most important things that one should go ahead with that. And it should be mandatory for all the employees. This has been mandated by even RBI also. If we want to do that, right from bottom up to the top, everybody should understand what is cyber security basically. They should be aware, including the board of directors. Now it has been mandated even for the board of directors. So it is absolutely necessary, and they can prevent it themselves. Nor the CISO nor the CIO can prevent all the security incidents. The people who are handling that at that particular point of time, if they are aware about it and they have the presence of mind, they can stop it over there and there itself. So that is one of the most important thing that I think so.
Okay. That's what
Another thing is, very important thing is, when they observe certain things, if they can report to the CISO or risk management or the IT team on the time, then we can prevent it also. That is another experience that I want to share that part. So once you report it, so reporting mechanism and taking action on the time, that is absolutely crucial for that. The timing within which you can prevent it, that means you are mitigating that particular risk. That is absolutely important. That is another thing. And if you are talking about tangible transformation, then definitely this next generation firewall that is needed. That is next generation might be at the perimeter level or core firewall, or the endpoint security. Because even though by chance if the certain emails are still allowed inside, if you have the endpoint security properly, still you can prevent it. So endpoint security, antivirus, patching on time, addressing the vulnerabilities, doing the VAPT on a periodic basis, addressing those vulnerabilities on time, that is compliance part is very, very important. Because RBI is coming with different circulars.
So compliance has to be all tangible?
Yes, there are certain, these are mostly all tangible. Because they give certain guidelines. If you see that RBI Cyber Security Framework 31st December 2019, then they have recently come up with core banking system framework. There are certain reasons for that, because RBI has got certain incidents from some other bank and they want to share those things with all other banks. That is the reason. We see that why RBI is sending so many circulars, but there is certain reason for that, and that is a good reason. That's why our banking system is still in good position, I will say, as compared to the other globalized bank. That's what you are rightly mentioned. So these are the tangible, like say DLP, implementation of DLP, integrating critical systems with the SOC. Okay. Then having threat hunting exercise on a timely basis, doing VAPT on a timely basis, having WAF in place, then those security measures, having next generation firewall, and you need to have the good internal monitoring systems also. Monitoring internal as well as the service providers that what you have. Another very important thing is, that is what being highlighted from time to time, is vendor risk management. What kind of vendors you are shortlisting, on the what basis you are shortlisting the vendor. And have you assessed the vendor itself? You have to do the vendor risk assessment. There is a framework for that.
That's also tangible.
That is also that you can figure it out whether my vendor, that means vendor is capable of doing that part, and having the drills on time. So these are the things if you can do on a proactive basis. And the reactive basis, I will say that incident response. If certain response happens, even though you put all the proactive measures in place, if something happens on a timely basis, how you do respond it, and mainly thing is you need to mitigate over there in itself rather than allowing it to spread across the bank. That is very, very important, and very important. RBI, as per RBI guidelines, you need to inform to the RBI also. So if any system is down for more than 4 hours, you need to inform RBI, even though it is not an incident, even though it is shut down and it is impacting the customers. It is mandatory to inform RBI. There is certain format is there. You need to inform RBI, so that RBI is also aware about it. That is what it is being maintained, and also the certain within 24 hours. So there are certain timelines are also there. So as long as I think if we can follow this one, I think we should be in good shape.
Okay.
Thank you.
What are the tangible and intangible transformations you are looking at, so that the bank can be more successful, more profitable, more safe also?
सभी अर्बन कोऑपरेटिव बैंक्स ने ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा इंटर कम्युनिकेशन बढ़ाना चाहिए. ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है. खाली आरबीआई और रेगुलेटरी कम्युनिकेट करता है, उसका स्टडी करके फायदा नहीं है. हाँ, क्योंकि क्या है कि कई बार अलग अलग अभी 2 टाइप का रिस्ट्रिक्शन चालू हुआ है इसका भी ध्यान देना जरूरी है। पहले आरबीआई रेगुलेटरी स्टॉप देयर फाइनेंशियल रेगुलेटरीज बनाती थी, कर्जा मत दे दो, कम दे दो, इसी प्रायोरिटी में सब्जेक्ट दे दो। अभी जो डिजिटलाइजेशन सर्विसेज है उसको भी कंट्रोल उन्होंने स्टार्ट किया है, उसके बारे में इसी सब्जेक्ट के लिए वो कंट्रोल लगा दिया है, दैट नीड्स टू इम्प्रूव योर साइबर सिक्योरिटी। तो ये इम्पोर्टेंट बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर ने भी सोचना चाहिए। हमारे पास जो प्रोवाइडर्स वेंडर्स है जिनको हमने काम करने के लिए बोला है बैंक में, वो इतनी ताकत से काम कर रहे हैं, कैपेसिटी है उसके पास या नहीं है। मेजर दिक्कत है वो वेंडर के पास अभी ज़्यादा टेक्नोलॉजी बेस्ड स्टाफ अवेलेबल नहीं है। और वो स्टाफ हमारे पास लिस्ट नहीं देते, वो ठीक से अपडेटेड लिस्ट अपडेट नहीं करते कि हमारे पास सर्विस देने वाला इंजीनियर आज था, कल वो हमारे पास से स्किप होके चला गया है, वो कहाँ चला गया है, वो इंफॉर्मेशन हमारे पास नहीं आता है। ये ही टारगेट है, वो जाके अलग तरीके से हैकर्स को जाके मिला है या नहीं मिला है। हमारी सब इंटरनल इंफॉर्मेशन उनको मालूम पड़ता है थोड़े दिन के बाद। उसके ऊपर भी कंट्रोल लगाना जरूरी है कि ये इम्पोर्टेंट है कि वेंडर के पास जो इंजीनियर है उसको बाद में किसी कंपनी ने इन्वॉल्वमेंट नहीं करके लेना चाहिए। जो बैंक में स्पेशली काम कर रहा है उसको गैप एनालिसिस बोलते हैं, उसको टर्मिनेशन लेवल पे रखना जरूरी है। आज हमारे पास बैंक में काम करके आया और बाद में दूसरे बैंक को जाके मिल गया तो सब डेटा वो लेके जाता है, क्या उधर वो चल रहा है, लीकेजेस का है, उसका कंट्रोल मेरे पास नहीं है। ये सोचना बहुत है इम्पोर्टेंट। थैंक यू।
Yeah, just want to add on tangible and intangible things, right? Let me touch upon the intangible piece first, right? I never imagined that, that the education can be delivered through digital channel, because we are used to that process, right? Physical thing. And because of that, what we have seen is the mobile, the technology, the internet is so deeply rooted in our day-to-day life, or in our business processes. Whatever business you think of, right? Very tightly, very deeply integrated in all these things. That today we cannot imagine a world without internet. So whenever I go and visit my any relatives, right? The first thing I check is Wi-Fi hai kya? Password kya hai? Why?
Yeah.
So I want to be connected. I want to always be connected, right? WhatsApp, SMS, emails. For me, it is more business, right? For kids, it is more social networking, right? For them, it is something else, right? They want to share information. They are open-minded. They want to share stuff like that and all those things. What we need to do intangibly is, and then it is not limited to kids. Even our senior citizen people. I mean, I'm talking about my parents, my mom. She started using tablet, and if you look at our houses, we have water purifiers, smart water purifiers. We have smart ACs, stuff like that, and all those things. 5G is just around the corner, right? It will bring in more and more devices, connected devices. So, intangibly, we are deeply rooted. The internet and digitalization is going to get deeper and deeper. Right? What we need to do is, we need to make sure that everybody at our house, home, relatives is educated on security. What to be shared, what not to be shared, right? I always ask my kid, don't share your pictures on immediately. I mean, right at that moment that I am at airport, I am doing this. Don't do that, because somebody will see and then figure out that these people are not at home, right? And that home is like locked, so they can. Similarly, SMS frauds, OTP frauds. UPI frauds, it's very common. We are working with government to figure out, how do we do that? How do we pass on that information to governments and banks that they can stop and do some actions. We are working with Interpol at this point in time. So most of those Nigeria scams, you would have seen some point in time. We work with the Interpol, we identified the person behind it, we identified the flow of the money, how that money flows. Okay, eventually leading to that one or two or that group of people. We work with Interpol, we got them caught, in
That's important.
so a lot of things are happening, right? intangibly, these are the things very important. We need to inform people on board that security awareness, right? I mean, if you go in ATM, right, you will see somebody is coming, giving you an ATM ke sir, mere ko nikhal do. So that mindset needs to change. How can I hand over an ATM to a stranger and give him OTP? Ke mere ko paise nikalne do. We need to educate people. We need to bring that security mindset right there, tangibly. And I want to touch upon the earlier question as well.
Let's go faster.
Yeah. So earlier, I think you asked, whom should you reach out? I think internal team should be, I think, as sir likely mentioned, the process needs to be defined, what needs to be done at that point in time. That SOP has to be there, number one, internal team. What's happening, what's wrong? That's one. Second thing is, trust your existing vendors. Give them a chance. But at the same time, look out. Who is bringing the most innovation in that space? The one key parameter to identify that piece is who is investing in R&D. You pick up 5 vendors, it's public information. Just pick up 5 vendors, security vendors, say how much you are investing on R&D. It's a public information. You can just check on your mobile phone. Okay, what is the R&D investment of ABCD company? What is the R&D investment of XYZ company? Stuff like that and all those things. Very basic element, right? Ask them, can you help us? And I'm seeing, this ransomware, cobalt strike is rampant, right? Airlines, power companies, banks, it's all across. People come to us. We are security vendor, they come to us. Whether they are existing customer, they are not existing customer, it doesn't matter. We're happy to help. The same goes with the other OEMs as well. All of them. So from that perspective, the security community is very helpful, very outgoing. If you reach out to anybody, because I need help, nobody will say no. There is no financial obligations. Right? So please reach out, look out, ask for help. Most of the time what happens is, we don't ask for help.
I want to bring in one business perspective here. Is that customers are not coming to the branches. They're doing more and more banking and payments remotely, digitally, online, on mobile, whatever it is. And in any business, including the banking business, more and more you have to be where the customer is. Okay? If you are opening a new branch, I'm sure you're opening it where you expect good customer base to be there. You don't open a branch in a place just because the rental there is very cheap. So how are you transforming the business to be near to the customer?
Actually, we are planning to do that.
Okay.
But we can get that opportunity with the benefit of analytics. Suppose we can get if we can get a data like spending pattern of the customers, then we can design a product accordingly. So in that fashion, we can take the help of analytics and the data which is available. With the help of Google also, we can do some collect data and do that. So we are actually thinking of that, but not come with any complete solution.
Okay.
Most of people are into the Facebook, Instagram. So posting a bank's details on Facebook or Instagram definitely will be improve on the retail customer base.
Are you and your teams looking at the data about your customers or about prospective customer to figure out if you can offer them any of your existing products, or if you can offer them create some new product, create a variation of a new product? All those business opportunities that are there by you reaching out to the customer. Something like that, any approach?
Obviously, we can post an advertisement on the Facebook after creating an account, and wherever actually they click to that, we can download the entire data, and we can be able to call them as well, because the phone numbers also we have been getting over there, and on those basis, their requirement can be able to understand. Because the post has been created for that only.
So what has the response been from this kind of approach? Is it yielding good results?
Not so good, but at least the branding is happening.
Okay.
and even some are actually just touching to the post which we have created, because they like to know what exactly is that. And after assessing only we'll able to understand whether we have been able to fund or we are able to make them a customer or not.
So apart from clicking and showing interest, customers also like to put a like or a dislike, you know.
Yeah, that is a popularity. Basically, your brand is getting most popularized. So instead of on thumbs and down thumb, if they actually put the comment like I'm interested.
Okay.
So typically, from a consumer per se, I want to make sure that my bank offers online banking, all those services, has an app, UPI, API, and things like that, and all those things, right? RTGS, IMPS, all those transactions, flexibilities, and all those things, right? Because we are living in a world which is 24/7, right? I just maybe when I go back home, my kid will say, okay, college ka fees bharna hai. You just do the transfer now. Do the transfer and make sure that college fees is paid, electricity bill is paid, stuff like that, and all those things, right? I think that has become common, right? What I see, banking has become a multifaceted approach. Brick and mortar, the physical things, virtual things, online, and now banks are also very much active behind the scenes as well, Manoj, right?
Okay.
So what you see, those jazzy applications which you are using for most of the transactions, at the back end requires an API integrations with the banking systems. The banks has to write modern applications, so they can offer those services. They can talk on API and then make sure that that flexibility has been extended to their consumers, right? What I'm seeing is UPI, API is getting adopted like anything. It is booming, right? We are working with NPCI. API is the next big thing, right? It is touching everything, not only banking, but everything. But yeah, banking is a thing which is more towards consumer, right? What I see is, while we are adopting new technologies, new ways, new channels, advanced channels, if I may say so, right? When it comes to security, we always go back to that traditional approach. API is a different thing altogether. Maybe 20 years back, I'm sure most people will be able to relate. We had multiple protocols for multiple things. Web was 80. Email was for us 25, 110, SMTP POP3, stuff like that. File sharing was FTP, 2022, stuff like that, 21, 20, those things, right? But now what has happened over a period of time? 443, to core everything. So with HTTPS, SSL, TLS, now I can do conferencing, I can do anything and everything which I can imagine. The same thing is happening with API. Okay? Whatever you think of can be done with API. Chat GPT, we were talking the other day, right? It's API based system, AI ML running on top of it, taking feeds live and then giving you results. So same thing, now we need a different approach for API security. Which vendor is talking about API security? Very few. So you need to think on those lines, because you have to make sure that when API becomes, which is already become a mainstream, when it will hit anything and everything, how do I secure it? The traditional approach will not work.
Let's look at another business angle, business opportunity. Go to any shop, there will be that QR code there, and there will be some branding, Paytm or GPay or something like that. How can you make your brand visible when the consumer is doing a financial transaction? Even if he's paying 100 rupees or 1000 rupees or whatever it is, small amount. Because if you are visible, then you are in business. The more you become invisible, the more the business will go to someone else, whether it is GPA or Paytm or whoever else. Have you thought about being more visible in partnership with your merchants, whether they're grocery merchants or chemists and all this comes under the umbrella of a new term which is evolved called embedded finance. Embedded finance is where sound financial service is built in along with something else. Uske liye alag se you don't have to go to the banking side. But the bank is built the banking solution is built into that. So how are you making yourself, planning to make, I don't see you banks there. आपका Facebook पे ऐड रहेगा, आपका ब्रांच के ऊपर आपकी विजिबिलिटी रहेगी, लेकिन वो दुकान के अंदर आप विजिबल नहीं है क्योंकि but that's where the customer is doing business. How do you plan to make yourself more visible in those places? Because the merchants are your customers.
In this case, the similar thought comes in the regulatory body also, that the GPay or Google Pay or something other channel, they are making the leader in that channel instead of the bank. So now RBI is instructed that you can directly expose your SDK to the directly to the Book My Show. Now earlier what happened that when we made the transaction at the Book My Show through UPI example, then that transaction goes to NPCI to the regulatory GPay, Amazon Pay or maybe Phone Pay, and then the transaction goes to your bank to authorization of that fund. But now you will directly expose your SDK to Book My Show example. So you will directly interact with the vendor. So your payment will be directly deducted, like bank is directly connected to the particular vendor. So that initiative is already taken. Likewise, for I can say that in case of Cosmos, so we have already our time pay app is there. So that particular merchant we have tie up, and that merchant is onboarding the society and the societies for he's presenting the QR at the front of all the society collection mechanism, and they are using our Phone Pay. The backhaul is example in my understanding YBL Yes Bank Limited. Okay. In that case, the time pay, the backhaul is Cosmos Bank.
One more thing is bank should have their own acquirer, UPI acquirer actually, so that every merchant and bank have to confirm मतलब बैंक ने सब मर्चेंट को ये करना चाहिए कि मैंडेटरी कि हमारा ही UPI QR आप यूज करोगे, so that for using the acquired UPI every payment that is 100 rupees का होगा या फिर 1000 rupees का होगा, वो बैंक के थ्रू ही जाएगा. मतलब बैकएंड में जो भी आपका ये रहेगा URL, तो वो बैंक का ही रहेगा. जो अभी गूगल पे और जीपे की तरफ से जो जा रहा है ना, तो वो बैंक का यूज हो सकता है. तो ये हमारा बेनिफिट रहेगा.
सर एग्री.
आपके बैंक ने शुरू किए या और किसी?
नहीं, we are in process actually. We have issued a 50 to 60 QR code already.
Okay.
We are in process for that actually.
Just to add, but in this case, the transition of the Phone Pay or Google Pay or something, they are more on the reward point. Because as soon as we start paying the bill or transfer the money, we got the 10 rupees, 20 rupees, something. So in that case, NPCI has come up with all the bank that nth reward. So that is the reward program that whatever we do in the RuPay card or the digital channel which pass the transaction through NPCI, they are provided one portal, nth reward. So through that we will give the reward program to our customer. We have already live. Okay. So Cosmos customer who will do the transaction of digital channel, so they will earn the money, means the reward point, and they will reward based on the gift voucher or partner associated with that nth reverse platform.
Just like credit card.
Exactly.
That's good actually. Yeah.
You see more of home banking, doorstep services evolving for you to serve your customers. How do you see that as an opportunity? And maybe you want to tie up with merchants who do deliver different kinds of things.
Using a debit card or whatever, I don't think that credit card any of the cooperative bank is offering right now. But on a debit card, actually we can able to make a tie-up with the certain outlets, and they will offer a discount, and we can promote our bank on that. So most of the private sector banks are doing on those bases.
Do you think cooperative banks should do it aggressively? I mean, is it
it's a
good?
It's a present, as per market trend, it's a requirement. But because of this threat only and the system awareness and system lacuna, the cooperative bank is not actually promoting on that. But otherwise, private sector banks, most of the private sector, even national banks also has been promoting.
My question for lady customers, who typically ladies have less mobility than men. How do you see women customers responding to home or doorstep services, different kinds of services where banks can play a role?
Actually, our presence is in urban area.
Right.
So we are not facing this type of issue in case of women customers, because our presence is typically in urban area. Even in semi-urban also, we are situated in suppose Shirwar. So that is also a very developing area and developed area, I can say.
Okay.
So these kind of issues we are not facing in respect of our bank. But they are not expecting, apart from that, they wish to visit the bank also.
Oh.
Because what happens is that they get the exposure. They need some help, they need some knowledge. So it is very beneficial for them to come to visit the bank and talk to our counter staff and everything. So actually our feedback is that it is the era of that women don't move and they have less mobility, as I think
all changing.
Yeah, it is changing. It is changing, specifically in urban area.
तसा विचार केला तर टेक्नॉलॉजीची जी कॉस्ट आहे बेअर करणं फार अवघड जातं. याच्यामध्ये कमीत कमी कॉस्टमध्ये डोर स्टेप बँकिंग सर्व्हिस जर दिली तर ट्रान्सफॉर्मेशन खूप चांगल्या पद्धतीने होऊ शकतं आणि तो आम्ही प्रयत्न करतो.
एग्जाम्पल देंगे किस टाइप की सर्विस?
सगळ्या पद्धतीची. अगदी सेव्हिंग अकाउंटचे पैसे समजा पाहिजे असेल तर ते घरी नेऊन देणं, या गोष्टी. कर्जदाराला घरी जाऊन त्याचा कर्ज अर्ज भरून घेणं, त्याची सगळी स्क्रुटिनी करणं, डॉक्युमेंटेशन कलेक्ट करणं, घरी जाऊन सह्या करून घेणं, त्याला घरपोच पेमेंट करणं, या सगळ्या गोष्टी आम्ही डोर स्टेप सर्व्हिसमध्ये सगळ्या गोष्टी करतो. की फिक्स डिपॉझिट कलेक्ट करणं, त्याची रेसिप्ट त्याला घरी नेऊन देणं, या सगळ्या गोष्टी आम्ही करण्याचा प्रयत्न सुरू केलेला आहे आणि त्याला चांगला रिस्पॉन्स मिळतो. तर डोर स्टेप बँकिंग सर्व्हिस आपण जर केली तर खूप चांगला रिस्पॉन्स मिळतो. हा आमचा अनुभव.
For the session of the SOC part, how the SOC implementation and its roadmap or something. So all the audience was UCB 1, 2, 3, 4. So while discussing the most of the UCB struggle in the due to commercial part and the product. So do you have any product specially designed which is for the UCB level where the cost of that particular solution will become, but simultaneously they will achieve the compliance also. For example, work from home or the EDR kind of solution or the firewall. For example, your firewall has each module has its own processor or something. But do you have any customization kind of product which is very less, some few feature or the maybe control won't be available, but without of that control, that product will work as required, and the commercially that particular UCB can gain the buy the product and they will comply, and as soon as they will protect their environment with the help of latest technology.
Correct. Good question. So while the technology is available, at what cost you can adopt that particular technology and implement and sustain it for next 3 years, 5 years, and stuff like that and all those things. Good question. So what we have done at Palo Alto Networks is that we have created multiple models in terms of hardware, in terms of software, in terms of licensing options, product, to suit most of the customers, most of the banks, especially, irrespective whether it is a 1,000 employee bank or 10,000 employee bank or a 100,000 employee bank and stuff like that and all those things, right? And what we have done is we have made our product modular. So let's say you just want next generation firewall. You don't want any additional threat prevention policy or APT security or DNS security and things like that, right? So you can start with NGFW based product, and as and when your requirement comes in, you enable those controls, right? So you don't need to pay from day one. You can grow as your security requirement grows, you can grow. On top of that, what we have done is we are working with the Google, AWS, Azure, the cloud service providers. Okay, and for software piece, not the hardware, the software piece. That software piece is available in the form of quarterly and annually billing. So let's say if you're doing a cloud project with Microsoft will charge you on a monthly basis, right, for that consumption. We have brought in a similar model. So if you're going for an endpoint security solution from Palo Alto Networks, or a cloud security solution from Palo Alto Networks, or any other, apart from hardware, any other security subscriptions, right? We can work with Google, we can work with AWS, we can work with Azure, whatever vendor you already have a relationship, to do that billing via your Google or AWS or Azure account. See, today what you do is, if you have firewall or an antivirus, you have to pay that cost upfront for 3 years, 5 years. We can take you with that. We work with Google, AWS and Azure, and that keeps you a quarterly or annually billing. So you know that capex that is better. So you can adopt more technologies, right? I think that is very useful. And we are seeing most of the banks, private banks especially, they are taking advantage of that, and then they are executing those projects. We are seeing.
but इसके लिए हमने एक विजन डॉक्यूमेंट बनाया है
अच्छा
बैंक ने कि जो नेक्स्ट 5 इयर्स में कैसे बैंक डेवलप होगी, क्या क्या बैंक करना चाहती है, उसके लिए हमने एक विजन डॉक्यूमेंट बनाया है. तो नेक्स्ट 5 इयर्स में जो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन करना है हमें बैंक में, वो किस तरह से करना है, कौन से एरियाज में करना है, मार्केट कैसा फेस करना है, उसकी एक स्ट्रॅटेजी हमने बनाई है.
मी अर्बन बँकाला गरज काय सांगतो, प्लॅटफॉर्मवर आहे, डिजिटल प्लॅटफॉर्मवर. हे सगळं छान आहे सर, डिजिटलवर करणं वगैरे. आदमाने साहेबांनी जसं म्हणले, काही वर्षापूर्वी आम्ही रिटेल बँकिंगच करायचो. दुर्दैवानं आम्ही मोठ्या कर्जाच्या मागे लागलो आणि आमचं मूळ बँकिंग सोडून दिलं. आणि रिझर्व्ह बँकेने आता अट टाकली की 25 लाखाच्या आतली कर्ज तुम्हाला करायचे. त्यांनी सांगितलं म्हणून आम्ही आता युटर्न घेतोय की कंपल्सरी 50% कर्ज हे बिलो 25 लाख रुपयाची द्यायची.
ओके,
प्रचंड मोठा हा गॅप होणार आहे. आता इथं सगळ्या बँका बऱ्यापैकी शहरातल्या आहेत, पण जर याच्यापेक्षा खाली जर आपण युनिट बँक्स किंवा 2 ब्रँच 2 ब्रँच, सुदैवानं मला एक 100-150 बँकाबरोबर काम करायला मिळालं. याच्यापेक्षा वाईट स्थिती आहे तिथं. डिजिटल बँकिंग फार सोपं आहे सर. डिजिटल बँकिंग फेसबुकचा वापर करावा, इंस्टाग्रामचा वापर करावा, पेटीएमचा वापर करावा, CBSचा मार्केटिंगसाठी वापर करावा, हे करावं ते करावं, सगळं सांगायला चांगलं आहे. कसं करावं कोणीच सांगत नाही. टूल्स क्या, टूल्स कौन देगा हमको? टूल्स तो देना चाहिए. तो जैसे जैसे हमको लगता है वैसे वैसे हम कर रहे हैं. तो छोटे छोटे अर्बन बैंकों के लिए डिजिटल बँकिंग प्लॅटफॉर्म वर येऊन बिझनेस रिटेल बँकिंग वाढवण्यासाठी कुठेतरी टूल्स आणि त्याला काहीतरी गाईडलाईन्स दिल्याशिवाय किंवा तुमच्यासारख्यांनी मार्गदर्शन केल्याशिवाय हे डिजिटल बँकिंग कधीच वाढणार नाही. इसके लिए टूल्स देना बहुत जरूरी है. दिख रहा है फेसबुक के, उसमें रिजल्ट तो आना चाहिए. करेक्ट, रिजल्ट तो नहीं आता, तो उसका जिस डेटा लेंगे और उसका इम्प्लीमेंट करके हमको बिजनेस बढ़ना चाहिए. इसलिए डिजिटल बैंकिंग पर आने के लिए हमको टूल्स का गाइडलाइंस बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है सभी छोटे छोटे बैंकों के लिए,
खासकर छोटे बैंक.
एक्चुअली अभी ये पूरा टूल्स और जो सॉफ्टवेयर है, इसका एक्चुअली कॉस्टिंग भी बहुत सारा बढ़ रहा है एक्चुअली. और कोऑपरेटिव को ये थोड़ा डिफिकल्ट जा रहा है कि हर 2 दिन में के बाद नया कुछ आ रहा है, उसमें हम एक इन्वेस्टमेंट कर रहे हैं, वापस दूसरा कुछ आ रहा है उसमें इन्वेस्टमेंट कर, तो ये थोड़ा दिक्कत का काम हो रहा है.
ये और इस तरह से
पीसीबी के जो फीचर्स लगते हैं वही रिक्वायर्ड फीचर्स के साथ अगर कुछ प्रोडक्ट होगा तो मास में सब ले सकते हैं.
Technology has to be affordable. We are taking steps, as I mentioned, we are working with GCP, AWS, and all those people to make sure that the cost is spread, so you don't get that hit. That's one thing. Second thing is, for anything, especially security, the cost is not one-time cost, or you should not be measuring by one time. You want to use that product for 3 years, 5 years, right? How do you derive the value which you have paid for that product for next 5 years? Is that something you have to measure? And then you need to take a call. Which vendor, let's say for example, if vendor A is coming and saying, this product is available at ₹10. You will buy it, you will run it for 5 years. Okay, what is the value he is going to give over 5 years? I don't know. There is vendor B who is saying, okay, I will charge you ₹20, but I will give you tools. So you can do best practice assessment. You can do health checks. We can give you visibility. We can help you with compliance. We can give you ABCD things, the value, the real value, not the money, but the value. That will help you for next 3 years and 5 years. As a banking community, we struggle, right? Most of the time when we get into a meeting, customer is using outdated operating systems. They don't know about compliance. What is the health of the firewall? What is the health of the, endpoint security solutions and things. There is no way the vendor has given you that tool. You are dependent on third-party auditors, and then you pay that auditor. You see, at the end of the day, you pay that money, this way or that way. You hire an auditor, third-party auditor. वो आएगा, they will tell you the same thing you know already, and then they will charge you. They will take 3 months.
Certificate देने के लिए.
Exactly. They will do the 3 months. They will tell you the same thing which you already know on their letterhead, and then you will pay money. So why don't you invest in a technology, something which is delivering value, right, for next 3 years and 5 years? It's very important. I believe most of the technologies are available today if implemented right. 95%, 98%, 99% security problem can be solved. Okay? The problem is we buy that one box firewall and we don't look at it. What is the configuration? What is the best practices? What's happening? What's not happening? So we need to look at for those options. So if a company is, let's say for example, Palo Alto is doing those, investing in those tools, how would you ensure best posture of your firewall? Right configurations, day zero configurations, stuff like that and all those things, right? So that's how you need to drive the value. Not just the monetary thing, right, but the overall value.
Does this cost is depend on the database? Like the most of the bigger bank is having a number of customers, more number of customers. Like if you say in a private sector bank or national bank, the number of customers are on a huge basis. But in cooperative bank, the number of customers are lower. So are you able to actually charge on the basis of the number of customers?
Different models.
Yeah. So if you could actually make that.
Yeah. So we have different models. Consumption options.
For small banks.
Consumption options are
Consumption options.
Yes.
Will I explain you what different technologies we have? कहाँ पे हम लोग क्या कर सकते हैं? What best we are doing? आप कहाँ पे आपका जो डिवाइस है उसको यूटिलाइज कर सकते हो along with Palo Alto. So we can do that complete integration story along with your specific problem.
Thank you so much.